A few weeks ago, I was scrolling on TikTok, as one does, and I was bombarded with these videos of people trying to get through their physical TBR lists. And one of them had, I want to say 480 books physically that they needed to read. And it got me thinking, why do we let our TBR lists get this long? How much does this cost? Can we actually read all of these books? People outside of social media actually even buy this many books. Hello, if you're new here, my name is Lainey Jean. If you're not new here, thank you so much for coming back to another video. I'm so excited to have you here. We are just going to be diving right into the overconsumption on BookTok or Bookstagram, whatever you want to call it. Honestly, the only reason I wanted to talk about this is because I am back in my reading obsession and my phone clocked that right away. As soon as I started getting back into reading and I read a 4-book series within a week, my phone was like, I see you. You need 1,000 book recommendations right this minute. And I cannot lie, my TBR list has gotten way too long. I didn't think I was going to have that many book recommendations that caught my attention. So the first question I wanted to ask was, why do our TBR lists get so long? Like I just said, within a day of my phone realizing that I was obsessed with this 4-book series, it was like, you must have a million other books recommended to you. So your algorithm is just going to automatically start feeding you these books that everyone thinks is a must read. And you get this insane amount of recommendations that it's overwhelming to kind of sort out or sort through what you actually are interested in reading. Also, they all sound so good. Obviously, these content creators are telling you books they are passionate about. They are always going to tell you books that they love. Rarely do you see someone talk about them recommending a book they wouldn't want someone to read. So it's very hard to kind of sift through what other people like versus what your taste in reading is and what you would like, especially if you're starting out. It's so hard to know what your personal taste is. I want to watch this video of the girl that has over 400 books on her TBR list and how she's kind of gamifying it, which I have some thoughts on that, but let's watch that real quick and then we'll discuss it.
My physical TBR count is currently at 423 books. We're doing pretty good, and it's all thanks to the TBR knockout board. I need something more than just cowboys, so I'm hoping for dark romance, fantasy. I will even take a historical fiction at this point. I just need to switch up the vibes. Let's see what the board has in store for us. Give me something good. Maybe if I make it roll. 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The Archer, a fantasy novel. There's been a few that were on my TBR that I wanted to read for the month of June. Oh my god, I have so many options. I've been telling myself for weeks now that I'm going to read Our Infinite Fates or Heavenly Bodies. Which one do I want to read more? I don't know. We're gonna go with this one. You remember when I said that we were doing pretty good? Yeah, should have kept my mouth shut. I'm just gonna rip off the band-aid. This book is going to get a 2-star from me for 2 reasons. One is the amnesia trope. I'm not a big fan of that trope. I end up more frustrated than I do entertain, and I know that's a me problem. 2, there's too many time jumps. Some of them I felt like were unnecessary and irrelevant to the story because they provided no context as to why they were cursed. They were there to help you understand why they loved each other so much and why they would go to the ends of the earth to make sure that the other person lived. They couldn't be happy because they were both miserable, but there's one person that knows why they're cursed and how to break the curse, and the other person didn't know anything, and then the person that knew kept telling the person that didn't know, just follow me blindly even though I am gonna kill you in 2 weeks. I'm an individual that I fall in love with the characters and then the story. And I couldn't fall in love with the characters because of all the different time jumps. Combine that with the amnesia trope and I did not have a good time. I'm not hating on this book by any means necessary. I know that the reasons I did not like this book is because of things that I know myself I don't enjoy. Ay, que maldita vaina.
So I think that this game, the way that she gamified this, could be interesting for people that have a long TBR list. I also don't think people should get to a point where their TBR list is 423 books. First of all, my brain's just having trouble fathoming owning 423 books that you have not read. I'm glad that this is giving her kind of more boundaries around what she is allowed to read. It's just picking the genre and then she picks what books she wants. I've also seen people who will specifically they have a wheel that will choose the exact book that they read. I do think that this is a good way to kind of take the decision making out of what book you're going to read. But at the same time, I really just don't think you should have to get to a point where you have the physical book books and you need a wheel to decide for you. Like, I think it's different if you have a list. Like, I have the app Storygraph and I have a TBR list there. I don't own all the books on my TBR. I don't own any of the books on my TBR, actually. And you can still use the wheel or a game like that for the purpose of content to decide what book you're going to read next. And this is no, like, I don't want to send any hate to any of these BookTok creators because I genuinely love to watch their content. There is something so appealing about it, so like fascinating about watching it and seeing these people read. I watched one girl read like 31 books in the month of May. It's like a book a day, which I could not, at least at this point in my reading journey. It's very interesting. It's very entertaining. But at the same time, the reason these people are doing this is because they have so many books to get through. So I want to talk a little bit about ways to kind of avoid ending up in that situation. First of all, one thing I wish more people realize they have access to is public libraries. I this year finally got my public library card with my roommate. We both went together and we've been using them. I will try and find the book that I want to read at the public library before owning it. And I will say it is really nice to own, like if you want to read a series and you really like the series, to own the books. Yes, I own the whole Throne of Glass series. I own the whole Akatar series. I own the whole Powerless series. I know realistically I cannot do that for every single series I read. Honestly, the only reason I own those series is because they were gifted to me. The Throne of Glass series was something I collected over 2 years because it took me that long to read the series from my brother and my parents. They gifted it to me like over multiple Christmases. And the Akatar series was also a gifting thing I believe I got for my birthday when I was like 16 or 17. Powerless series was a gift from my boyfriend, and then I ended up buying the last few books I needed to get for that series. If you have access to a public library, you will probably be able to find majority of the books you are looking for, or you are able to put in requests for books to be either brought in from other libraries in the area or for them to order them, and then more people will have access to those books as well. Again, I think a lot of times people owning these books goes a lot more into the aesthetic of owning your own books and this kind of romanticization of owning almost like your own personal library, which is very appealing. I'm not gonna lie, it would be really cool to like have a bookshelf full of books like that. But how often are you actually going back and rereading those books? Most people will just end up either giving them to friends to read like a lot, donating them, or they just sit there and collect dust because you don't actually reread them. Another way to cancel out the noise is to be picky about who you follow on social media, specifically on BookTok or Bookstagram. I have narrowed down my following to 3 creators that I really like that have similar reading taste to me. So I would say find 1 to 3 creators that have the same love for a series or a book that you have already read, so you know you can trust their taste. My favorite at the moment is Victoria. I'm gonna forget her last name, but I'm absolutely obsessed with her on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. She has very similar opinions. Was it the Akatar series? I believe she had similar opinions on the Akatar series as me, along with 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I did not like that book. And I know that's a very unpopular opinion, but I actually despised it, like did not like it. She had the same opinions, and so I knew we were on the same wavelength. She recommended Powerless to me. I read that series. I ate up every second of it. Insert clip here of me crying my eyes out while I was reading it. I was so unwell. So finding creators like that that really understand your taste in books so that you know when they recommend a book, it's most likely going to be something you like. So you don't have to waste your time searching through hundreds of different creators for books that you're going to like. Now let's get into the cost, because I think that this is a very important thing to talk about when it comes to reading. I feel like it is kind of sold as this accessible thing that everyone should have access to. And if you do have a public library, yes, you can have access to it. But a lot of the stuff you see promoted on social media is this necessity to buy the books physically for yourself to own so that it is yours and yours only. So I'm just going to go through some like top selling series. First of all, we're going to start with Throne of Glass because it is a very popular series and it has a lot of books. It's 7 main books and 1 novella. So you can buy the set or you can buy them individually. And there's also a hardcover and a paperback set. So I did get the prices for all of those things. So the hardcover individually purchased, not as a set. Like if you were to buy each hardcover on its own, it would be about $245, which is insane because I did not buy the whole set together. I got those gifted to me separately. So that's a lot of money going into those books, but I do take care of them and I love them. And I am planning to do a reread of the series, like a tandem read. If you were to buy the hardcover set, that would be $171.50. So you do save a decent amount of money there, but also buying 8 books and not knowing if you're going to finish the series is a big commitment of money. For the paperback, it's $155 individually, all the books together, and then the set would be $108.50. So again, you do save a decent amount of money, but I know so many people who start the series and they're like, it's so slow, I just can't do it anymore. You're sitting with 5+ books that have gone unread, and sure, you can try to donate it or you can try to give it to someone else who wants to read it. Sometimes I think that's why you could just go to a library and find the book, because all the libraries I've been to, they have that series specifically because it is so popular. The Hunger Games series, I actually read that for the first time this year. I was pleasantly surprised with it. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it, but I actually really, really love it. It's popular for a reason. The paperback set does not include Sunrise on the Reaping, so that one is $49.56, and then Sunrise on the Reaping separately is $18.99. And then for all of the hardcover books, all 5 of them, so the main trilogy and then the prequel and the 2 prequels, I guess. Yeah, 2 prequels is $124.95. For 5 books, that's not bad. I mean, in my opinion, but also shelling out $125 for books at once is a lot. And then the last series that kind of popped up on bestsellers for series on Barnes & Noble, Into the Darkness series, which I have heard nothing but bad things, but I'm using it just as a reference point for price. So the 2 books do not come in a set. They are sold for $16 and $19. Just to give you a bit of a reference point, average price for a paperback book is around $16. That's based off of rough estimates I did from books that are being sold on Barnes & Noble, because I feel like that's where a lot of people get their books from. And the average hardcover is around $30. So if you're thinking about that every time you go and buy a book, you're going to be spending $16 to $30. That is a lot of money. And I used to go to Barnes & Noble once a week with my best friend in high school, because we would go grab a coffee and we'd go to Barnes & Noble. I did not buy a book every time. We did that for years. I probably bought a total of 4 or 5 books the entire time we went, because I used my library that I had at the high school. Say we went 2 years, so 104 times, and I bought a book for $16 every single time. That's over $1,600 right there on books, which is just insane to me. That's an insane amount of money to spend on books, even if it is a passion, even if it's something that is super important to you, that you love and you love to collect them, or you're a really big book nerd. It is just really hard for me to put that number there, especially when you only read those books 1, maybe 2 times. That's just a lot of money, in my opinion. Now that brings up the question of, do people actually buy this many books? Yes and no. Obviously, we see it on social media. People do buy this many books, and I don't know if it's because they really physically want to own the book, or it could be because a lot of them are creators, so they're using it for content. Influencers get sent books, BookTok influencers get sent books, and it's hard to not want to constantly buy new books, because there are always new books being released. And I think a lot of people get into this scarcity mindset where if they don't get the book as soon as it comes out, 1, they're going to be missing out, and 2, they are never going to have the opportunity to get that book again, which is obviously not true, because if a book is performing well, they're obviously going to continue to make copies of it for people to buy. But on the opposite side, this is social media. So most people in your day-to-day life that are not performing this way on social media are probably not going to own that many books. And if they do, they've probably been collecting them over a long period of time, not just buying over 100 books within a 5-year span. Me personally, I will not buy a book until, like I said, 1, I cannot find it at the library, and 2, I am physically going to read it. So when I was reading the Powerless series, my boyfriend gifted me the first book. I read that book, and I did not go back to Barnes & Noble and get the second book until I had finished the first book, was done with it completely, and was ready to read the second book. And the day that I got it, I read that book. I read it within the day. I read the second book in 2 hours. Half of a book, I guess. 1.5, because it was the novella. You read the novella second in that series. That is how I have always approached reading. I will not buy a book unless I am absolutely going to start reading it that day. It is the next thing I want to read. Not the 5th thing I want to read. Not, I hope to want to read this within the next year. No, it is going to be my next physical read, the thing that I am starting today after I buy it. That's what works for me. I know that doesn't work for everyone, but that is a way that I keep my consumption of books at a minimum. And also remember, social media is not going to show you what doesn't sell. They are going to push out all of these books so that hopefully you will continue to buy them and continue to have this mass amount of them that you need to read through that you probably won't get through all of them. Which is why we need to talk about, do people actually ever finish their TBR lists? I'm going to lean towards no. I have yes and no written down in my notes. Again, I'm going to lean towards no. I think the only way you would be able to 100% guarantee you finish your TBR list is to, one, do a no buy on books. And why I think this is very, I don't want to say impossible, but very challenging for creators or book lovers in general is because there are constantly new drops of books, constantly new things being sold to you. Your favorite authors might be dropping a new book to a series or to a universe that they have created. You want to support them, which I understand. That's great, but that adds another book to your TBR. Some people have over 100 books on their TBR. While some people can read 100 books per year, that is not the average. I know so many people that have not read a book in years. Personally, thus far, I'm on book 11 of the year. So we'll say I'm going to read 20 books this year. That means if I had 100 books on my TBR, that would take me 5 years to read that, assuming I didn't buy any new books. Ooh, there's a bug. I think it's unrealistic to assume that people are going to just automatically stop buying books just to get through their TBR. Their TBR is always going to be growing. And if they're already in this habit of buying books every single time they want to read a book, even slightly, truly never going to get through your TBR list. And while you have your whole life to read books, obviously, you will eventually most likely lose interest or forget about a book on your list that you have not read because it will be replaced by something else. Let me know your thoughts on the BookTok overconsumption kind of glorification of having basically a library in your own house. If you aspire to have this, if you prefer public libraries, what changes you think could be made, if you think there is kind of a glamorization to it, I would love to hear any thoughts you have, good, bad, neutral. Thank you so much for sitting down and talking with me about this. I'm really glad that you give me the platform to discuss topics like this, and hopefully next week I will be having a more fashion-focused video, styling, I'm assuming. And I will be gone for a week, so I'm going to try to pre-record so that I will be able to get a video out to you guys on time. With all that being said, thank you so much for being here. I love you so much, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.